Hey, so today we're going to read chapter 10 of Here's Hank. Yesterday we read chapter 9, and that was when he had told his parents that his dog Cheerio peed on the floor. So he had to help clean it up, and Cheerio had to sleep in the little cage in the kitchen. And he cried and cried and cried, and Hank felt really bad. So he remembered that he could put a piece of his clothing in with Cheerio in the little crate. So he got a dirty sock and he brought it to the kennel, but as soon as he opened the gate, Cheerio got out and started running in circles just all around the house. So he had to get doggy treats and trick him back into the cage. So he threw the treat in there and the sock in there, and then the dog was able to go to sleep in the kennel. So we're going to read chapter 10 today. The next day at school, all I thought about was Cheerio. I'm usually pretty bad about paying attention. Like when Principal Love is talking on the loudspeaker, I always stare at the clouds outside, wondering if ants would build a colony in them. After school, my dad came to pick me up. When I saw him, I was totally surprised. He was holding a leash, and at the end of it was my new dog. Cheerio, I called out. Hey, is that your dog? Nick McKelty said as he tripped down the front steps. He's really short, but very cute, Kate Sperling said. Kate has loved animals ever since she was in preschool. Everyone wanted a chance to pet him, but all Cheerio wanted to do was see me. He tugged on the leash and stood up on his hind legs, panting. I ran to him and knelt down, letting him kiss me all over my face. Taking Cheerio on a walk together was a great idea, Dad, I said. Why don't we take him to the park? The fresh air will be good for all of us. You might be right, Hank, my dad answered. I'll just read the article that says exercise can sharpen the mind. My dad has a way of making everything fun seem like a life lesson. But I didn't care. I was getting park time with Cheerio. I couldn't wait to see what he'd think of all that grass. We walked down 78th Street all the way to Riverside Park. The minute Cheerio saw the grass, he took off running. I was holding the leash and he practically pulled me off my feet. There were so many new things for him to explore. He couldn't decide what to do first. He ran to the rocks and sniffed all around them. He ran to the tree and sniffed some more. When he found the fire hydrant, I thought his nose was going to fall off from over sniffing. We headed toward the basketball courts. Oh, look who's there shooting some hoops, my dad said. Isn't that boy in your class? He's with his father, who just bought the bowling alley on 86th Street. When I looked over to the basketball court, my heart sank down to my knees. There was Nick McKelty shooting baskets with his dad. Nick was the last person I wanted to see right now. Let's go say hello, my dad suggested. Let's not say we did. Well, I'm going to say hello, my dad said. A man with a new bowling alley is going to need some help with his computers. And might I remind you, that is what I do for a living. Before I could stop him, my dad had marched up to Mr. McKelty and introduced himself. Right away, they started talking about business. I don't know why grown-ups always do that. That left me and Nick McKelty staring at each other with nothing to say. Your dog looks like a hot dog, McKelty sneered. Cheerio just wagged his tail happily. I guess some puppies don't know a jerk when they see one. I bet he feels like one too, McKelty added. Then he bent down to touch Cheerio, but instead of petting him, he unhooked his leash from his collar. Cheerio took off running. Come back, Cheerio, I yelled as he chased a fat gray squirrel around the park. But Cheerio wasn't interested in listening. All he was thinking about was catching that squirrel. Hank, my father called out, get your dog. I went after him, but couldn't catch him. No matter which direction I went, Cheerio ran the opposite way. To him, it was a game. McKelty just stood there laughing his head off. You are such a loser, Zippertooth, he said under his breath as I ran by him for the 5th time. My dad joined in the chase. He ran after Cheerio, but didn't have any more success than I did. A mom pushing a stroller stepped out of the way so he could run by her. 2 little kids on the swings just pointed and laughed. Cheerio never got tired. Finally, he stopped right next to the fountain to catch his breath, panting hard. He looked up at the statue in the middle of it. It's a statue of a man on a horse. I think Cheerio thought he could play with the horse because he jumped right into the fountain. Now I've got you cornered, my dad yelled. And with that, he jumped into the fountain too, shoes and all. A tourist with a camera stopped taking pictures of his wife and started shooting pictures of my dad. These New Yorkers know how to have fun, I heard him say. Cheerio just splashed around in the shallow water. He was having the best time. My dad was not. With every step, he splashed himself more and more until he was dripping wet. Even the mechanical pencils in his shirt got soaked. This is it, buddy, he roared at Cheerio. Your playtime is over. He plunged into the water. When he came up for air, he was holding two things. Cheerio was in one hand and a large goldfish was in the other. Hey, Dad, you're quite a fisherman, I called out. My father did not crack a smile. His face was purple with anger. He climbed out of the fountain and put Cheerio back on his leash. Come on, Hank, he growled. I have to get out of these wet clothes. Dad, just let me explain what happened, I said. Not now, Hank. You've gotten into enough trouble for one day. We walked home and in total silence. Even Cheerio knew not to make a peep. When we reached Broadway and 78th Street, I tried to start a conversation. You're shivering, Dad, I said. Do you want to borrow my jacket? It's a little small, but you could wear it as a scarf, I continued. Again, no answer. In fact, he didn't speak until we got to the elevator in our building. Then he turned to me and said the sentence I was hoping he wouldn't say. This adventure proves that you're not ready to take care of a dog, he said. I specifically told you that you were to keep Cheerio on the leash at all times, and yet you couldn't follow even that simple rule. But it wasn't my fault, Dad. Not another word, Hank. This dog is going back to the animal shelter. No, Dad, please, no. I was trying as hard as I could not to cry. Hank, that's my decision, he said. End of story. All right, so that is the end of chapter 10. So let's see tomorrow what happens in chapter 11. Hopefully he doesn't have to take him back, but it sounds like his dad's pretty serious. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.